everybody. We're so happy to be back with the Point of View podcast. And it's been, I guess it's been 2 weeks now since we've recorded. And
it's my fault. So.
It's okay. You don't have to take the blame.
I was moving, but hey, this is the new studio. So it's going to be a lot of content coming from there. So just blame for that.
All right, we're glad you're trying to take the blame, but you didn't need to. But thank you guys for rocking with us. And today it's going to be a very special episode because we've been talking about a lot of things, and I've been trying to figure out how do we introduce financial talks on our podcast. And today I think we have the perfect guest to start off. And right before we start, guys, we hope you're doing well because, you know, we know that Corona is still trying to catch some people out there, but we're hoping that you're staying safe. And I know everything is now open. Just be careful, wash your hands, just take precautious measures to make sure that you're keeping yourself and your family safe.
Absolutely.
But before we start, we always like to start with a quote of the week. We're going to start with the quote of the week, and then we're going to introduce our guest today. We're on a Zoom call. And so for those of you...
Not me.
Huh?
It's not me that you're about to introduce.
Oh, please stop.
Okay, never mind. Sorry, guys.
All right. You guys know who he is, GV. He's just trying to be funny. But let us start with the quote of the week. And today, our financial talk is going to be about how to become debt-free and how to go about that process.
Very
we know a lot
nice.
of us, we're trying to take away all the loans that we're
Acquired,
and some of them are kind of stupid loans. The school one, I'm not gonna say it's kind of stupid, but sometimes I feel like that's kind of like a scam.
Well, let's get to the quote then, and let's see what our guests have to say about that.
Definitely. Right? So our quote of the week reads: "Financial peace isn't the acquisition of stuff. It's learning to live on less than you make, so you can give money back and have money to invest." I want you guys to guess who's this from. I really want.
And you know what? He would actually say like, "That's stupid."
Right? He likes to say stupid. If you want to take a guess, it's actually Dave Ramsey. I'll just give it out. I'll just give it out.
This guy, man.
Yeah, we're just started listening to him recently, but before we start, guys, I wanted just to introduce our guests. We have Kodnisa and Marek. I wanted to say your name purposely so I can see if I'm saying it right.
Close.
Close. Okay.
Oh, that was a fail.
That's embarrassing because I'm like.
But you're really close though.
Really? Okay, so
I'm
gonna Kodnisa.
Oh,
okay.
Wow, that was a C minus.
Oh Jesus, your name is really hard to pronounce too. Your name is really hard to
See,
pronounce.
his name is...
My name is Marek, so you got that one.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have Marek and Kodnisa with us. You guys, it's a pleasure to have you. And when I saw your story, I want to let them know how I kind of figured out or found you guys. I was on the IRS site trying to figure out when are we getting our stimulus check. So then on the bottom, I saw an ad, and it says like a couple that have been financially free or pay off their debt. It was $125,000, and they paid it off. And how many months? If you guys want to cut me off and just...
It was 24 months.
24 months. So they paid 20, and I'm like, okay, I definitely need to check this out. So I started clicking on the link and I started watching, and I'm going to let them tell you guys more about the story. And from there, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna watch all their YouTube channels. I'm gonna support. I'm gonna definitely try to get them on our podcast. I had all these ideas, but before I start talking too much, I want you guys to tell us exactly how that process went about. And
I want to hear this.
I definitely want to know. We can help some people out here.
Well, we've done a lot of different media-related things lately, and so this is actually news to us. We didn't even know that we were at the bottom of that IRS website. So
I was like, oh, wait,
that's pretty
how?
cool that you found us that way. We'll have to go check that out. I'm not sure which one, which broadcast that was that we did that got that spot, but that's pretty cool to hear. So for sure. But I'll let her start with our debt-free journey.
Okay, well, we kind of, when we first started thinking about it, when we first got married, actually, like a girlfriend of mine had told me about Dave Ramsey, and I was like, oh, let me tell my husband about it. Let me tell him what's going on. She was like, her church is doing the FBU classes, and so I bring it up to him. This was in 2014. And he was kind of like, oh, babe, we're young. Like, we should just live it up. Like, we don't need to be so focused on paying debt right now. Like, we're getting income. Let's just travel and enjoy life. And I'm like, okay. And so, you know, a few years go by and we ended up getting a $9,000 settlement. And that's when he was kind of like, well, let's try to figure out, like, you know, what to do with this money. Because it's a large sum of money for us. And so we were kind of just like, he was doing research and he stumbled upon Dave Ramsey. And he's like, oh, babe, Dave Ramsey is this guy that I want to tell you about. I was like, oh, you mean the guy that I told you about a few years ago? That guy?
It's always like that. It's always like that.
And so once we kind of both got on the same like wavelength and we kind of just sat down and we said, we're going to go ahead and, you know, map out a budget and make sure that we are just stopping all of our discretionary like funds that we were doing. We were like spending a ridiculous amount on going out to eat, like to the movies, just going out in general, just anything. It was just a lot of money. And so we decided we're going to stop all of that and kind of funnel all of that money into our debt and try to knock that out.
Yeah. And so to be fair, we did receive that $9,000 settlement that kind of opened my eyes to it. And then during the process of getting out of debt, she was actually involved in a car collision. And so that also provided around $9,000, I believe. So $18,000 of the $125,000 was not money that we went out and like worked and spent our time for. So so it's really more like, what would that be? 106, 107, something like that.
Right.
But I mean, still, we always tell people, you know, it's very easy to take that portion of it and kind of use that and say, oh, well, they got all this money. It was still in reality a very small amount in comparison to the total debt amount. Yeah. So when we talk about like the 106, 107, whatever it would be, that part of it was pretty much just boots on the ground labor. We started following Dave Ramsey's content. We established a monthly budget and really started to identify, you know, exactly what we had coming in each month, exactly what we had going out each month, and everything in excess of that, we put on our debt. And so then once we kind of the first couple of months, 3-4 months, we started to kind of feel a rhythm of that. And then we were like, okay, well, how can we make that discretionary income greater? And that's when we just started like working harder. So we started picking up all kinds of different side jobs and side gigs. I was delivering pizza for Domino's, Pizza Hut. Wow. I was working at UPS on like a night
on top
shift,
of our full-time jobs.
On top of our full-time jobs.
Well, and I don't want to cut you off, but I remember you guys did mention your salary at the time, your income, your yearly income.
Yeah.
And when you paid that debt off, so which was pretty significantly different.
Yeah, when we started the debt-free journey, I was making around $35,000 a year, and she was making around $39,000, $40,000. Wow. So our combined household income was about $75,000 at the beginning. And then with all the side hustles and everything like that, we got that up to well over $100,000 before tax. But after tax, it was like 102 and some change. So an extra like 25, 30 grand on top of what we were already bringing in. Because a lot of people are like, well, how did you do that on smaller incomes? But in reality, you got to get the income up. And, you know, there's a variety of different ways to do that. But we just took to tip-related income, you know, with the delivery here. And she was working multiple restaurant jobs.
Wow, that's dedication. That's dedication. And I want to add to that. So then you guys, I know you guys are in a living tiny, that's what you call it. And you guys their YouTube channel is Living Tiny with the Bushes. So so they own their tiny homes. So what was the motivation? Like what was the force that kind of brought you guys to make that decision?
I mean, I'm going to say that was really all him, because when we first started the journey, we would kind of talk about like, oh man, like we're doing so well, like cutting down all of our expenses. But we have this really nice like downtown loft when we lived in Florida. And we were like, oh, that would just be our one splurge item. And then the deeper we got into the process, we were like, are we really spending $1,200 a month on a place that we don't even own? Like, what the heck? And so he had been thinking about tiny homes before. And then he was like, well, will we consider doing this? And I was like, where's all our furniture going? I don't know. And then kind of like that quote, I was like, you know what? It's just material things. It's like not very, like, it's not important. Like we can just get, if we do end up moving out of the tiny house, we can get more stuff. Like it's just stuff. And so then I was like, okay, that's fine. And I became on board. And then we just went full force ahead and never looked back.
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful.
The thing that really had us renting before was the flexibility factor. Like, we're younger, and we were like, we don't want to miss out on career opportunities. And we really felt like buying a house would tie us down to that location for at least a good 5 years. And so we're like, we're renting right now because we want to be flexible. So like, I was just always racking my brain around. I knew that ownership ultimately, was a better investment for our future. And I just kept racking my brain. How can we own, but also still keep that flexibility, but also have that flexibility in something that we can later turn into a profit. And so this kind of popped into my head. It was like, well, we can move around if we need to move. We're going to own the house outright. And then if anything changes in the future, we can put this thing on Airbnb and do it as short-term rentals and make income off of it. And we could go a totally different route. So it just comboed all three of those factors together perfectly for us. And so then it was just all of those things paired up against the idea of having like more space and more stuff. And that all of a sudden didn't really seem all that important, when we were looking at, the bigger picture of our long-term goals.
Right. That's beautiful. And I think you guys thought about it more like an investment into what your goals were. And I think that's really important.
Wow. You guys pretty much have this whole game figured out.
By the way,
I'm listening.
First time.
I'm listening to this whole story and I'm like, that's it right there. And the fact that you guys are very young as well, like, I wish a lot of our young people would look at it that way, because you guys can attest to this. You don't realize how much, your life is controlled around the things, the money that you owe and the stuff that you own, until you start getting debt free and you're like, oh my God, like, you can actually taste the freedom and realize, how much stuff you can get done and how much peaceful you can live.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you just have control over your life,
Yeah.
I still to this day have people try to convince me, well, if you leverage debt in this way and this, and I'm not saying that you can't leverage debt to build wealth. You absolutely can. But after you taste debt freedom, you don't want to go back. You're like,
exactly.
I don't care about doing it today with money that's not mine. I'm okay working and grinding for 6 months, a year, 2 years, to where I can just go buy that thing outright. And I don't even have to go through these loops of, this bondage, it absolutely frees you 100%.
Definitely. And I know you guys are married. For, I guess, couples, what do you guys think would be the perfect timing to start talking about finances, and how should you approach that? Because not everybody is really comfortable talking about finances. And if you're about to get into a relationship, you guys are already married. So for people that are about to get into a relationship or looking at long-term, which is marriage, how do you kind of be in sync? Because you guys were really in sync with, the decision. It's like, okay, one person brought up the idea and, you listen and you're like, okay, maybe I'm a little reluctant, but I'll jump on board. But how do you kind of make that process and that communication, kind of easy for people to kind of jump on board? And
you just gotta start. For us, it took us to the third year of our marriage to become on the same page as far as our mindsets towards debt. So I think that it's never too early. Some people might say it's a little aggressive to say on date one, hey, how's it going? My name is such and such. How much debt do you have? I need to know these things. But maybe that's a little too far, but I really do feel like it's important, especially in the dating stage, to talk about that, because imagine if we had gotten on the same page a lot sooner. Where would we be right now? If we would have came into our marriage, or even been actively doing that before we got married when we were dating, and then we came in on the same page and hit the ground running, right now we'd be sitting, but I don't know how much money. So it's never too early, in my opinion.
And it was something that we focused on a lot during our premarital counseling. We went through this booklet, and it had all these different questions that you just never think about. But these are things that are going to be part of your everyday life, everyday decisions. And when you think about marrying somebody, sometimes this stuff just slips completely through the cracks. And so we went through all of these different things, and it just opened up our minds and our eyes so much to so many different things. So we just think it's very vital to have early conversations around this thing. Maybe not the first date, maybe the second or the third.
Hey, what's your credit score? That's
Maybe
Man, it should be a credit check on Tinder or something.
maybe the second or the third you can start to kind of talk money in general. But we definitely advocate for people keeping finances separate prior to marriage until you're, officially one in union in marriage. We think that it's important to have your own thing, but it's never too early to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Is what
Okay.
And especially if you're dating with intention, you already know, like, okay, we're gonna bring this together at some point. So if, like, we talk about it early, this is the stuff that I need to work on before we get together, and this is the stuff you need to work on. When we come together, it could, blend a lot easier and smoother. So
I think one of the things that holds people back from talking about money is the fear of what might happen. But I think so often people forget about the positive that can come out of it. Like, it's kind of risky because you're like, oh, I don't want to step into a minefield and then this blows up in my face. But the other side of that risk reward, balance beam is the beauty of, like, actually coming together and, like, being on one accord and actually working out and finding, places where, your beliefs align, and how much closer that brings you together as you learn to kind of start communicating better and kind of getting on one page. So we're big advocates of, like, oneness with finances in marriage for sure.
So I have a question for you guys. So why do you think why would you guys say to people that, would say that they would argue that, let's say, for instance, like, I need to take out a student loan to go to school. Like, they have debt that have reasoning behind it. Like, why would you say to people like that? Because they feel like I have, legitimate, reasons for taking out that loan, or, taking on, some sort of debt in order to, build a future.
Right.
So I'm going to speak from my experience. For me, I wish that I would have been in a mindset like this earlier on. So I was the same person that felt like, oh, I have to get in debt to go to school. Like, I had done as much as I thought was possible. I got a track scholarship. I got a music scholarship. I got an education scholarship. Like, I was scholarshiped out, and I still ended up having to take a loan. So I think if I would have had the mindset of, like, even before college, like, I need to save up money so I can, like, pay for it, or I need to, like, work while I'm in college, or whatever it may be, I think that would have, like, definitely switched my mindset. And even if I had to go into debt to go to school, which I did, I probably would have started, like, being more aggressive, attacking it when I got out of it and started working than I did.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. If you are willing to work and you apply for as many scholarships as possible, you can get that total down. It doesn't have to just be 100% of it all in student loans and all in debt,
or none,
or nothing at all. So we don't believe in the concept of good debt and bad debt. We kind of think of it more as bad debt and worse debt, right?
Wow, that's nice.
I like
that.
Yeah.
So, like, all of it's bad, and I feel like when you call all of it bad, it sets your mind frame up in the right frame of thinking. Like, I don't want to owe money to anybody else. So even if I absolutely need to take this out, I've done everything I can to get it paid for, but I still got to put a little bit of money into this mortgage or a little bit of money into the student loan. I want to get that paid off as fast as possible, because this is not a good thing. It will be an investment into my future long term, but right now, like, I just think it reframes your thinking. And so that's kind of how we look at it. So even in the future, even though we're debt free right now, there may be certain land opportunities or housing opportunities where we can buy in. And even if we don't have 100% cash, if we have 50 or 60 or 70% cash, that might still be something that we do. But our goal is going to be to bust through that minus 30% or whatever as fast as possible.
Yeah.
That's
nice,
pretty cool.
Pretty nice. So are you guys planning on moving from the tiny house, or you feel like this is something you'll do long term when you have kids? I don't know if you guys are planning on having babies, or are you guys going to raise them in a tiny home, or we don't know. But
so that's something we're still kind of figuring out. Yeah. She thinks we can do it forever. I'm like, oh, no.
Wait, you're pretty tall, so I'm like, how do you maneuver around?
I am very tall.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of, so I think maybe when we have children, we probably once they start to run around, we'll need to upgrade in the tiny house. But I'm like, I think we can get a bigger one because this one is pretty small compared to other tiny houses that are out there. But I definitely, I mean, it's not the smallest, but I definitely think that we could make it work for a little bit longer. So we'll see.
Yeah. We're gonna cross that bridge when we get there. You know, like if we have a child and we start to feel like it's too much, then we'll kind of adjust at that point. But if we can make it work and find out different little ways to tweak things around and make it happen, then we'll do that too.
That's pretty cool. Hey, that's the you know, the cool thing about, you know, having freedom. You have choices now, you have options, and you get to choose exactly what you want to do and when you want to do it. So that's cool, rather than, you know, having your life being run by debt, and, you know, they tell you what you can buy, they tell you, you know, how to live your life and where you can live. So that's what it means to have freedom, is that you have options now. It's really cool.
I do have a question for people who wants to budget, because budgeting is kind of like, you know, it sounds so pretty. Okay, I'm going to budget. But really, you don't really get around it until you start realizing, okay, I'm spending too much money on this. I'm spending too much money on that. So how do you, like, what advice do you have for people who wants to start to budget? And did you guys have like a specific plan on how you budget?
I would say the pandemic, coronavirus, has probably really opened a lot of people's eyes to how much they spend. Mm-hmm. And now that people are home, like, this is kind of like what it took for us in terms of budgeting. Like, you know, the lifestyle that most of us have been living, being in the house, not going out to eat, not traveling, not doing anything. And they're like, wow, I'm saving so much.
I have so much money in the bank. Like, how'd this happen? Stop spending it.
This lifestyle that everybody's kind of been experiencing is the lifestyle that we were going through, you know, on our debt-free journey. So we've always been encouraging people, you know, especially through this time, that this is the perfect time to really sit down and iron out your finances. Yeah. And I think the pandemic has really forced a lot of people to really look at their spending, because maybe their income stopped or whatever. And that's just what you have to do. Outside of, you know, a pandemic like this, you just have to force yourself to sit down and say, okay, last month, what did I spend? Okay, last month, what did I earn? And then look on to the next. And it's never pretty. It doesn't all work out the first time. There's lots of kinks and things to iron out, and unexpected things that come up. But as you continue to budget and continue to look at your finances month over month, you really start to get that rhythm. You really start to, you know, become more in tune with what you have going on.
And I would say, for me, when I first heard the word budget, like back when I was in college for the first time, and I kind of felt a little like put aback by it, because I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what does it look like to budget? And I didn't realize how it just is a word that you hear and you're like, oh, it's like, I don't really know. It's talking about money. Like, I don't really know what to do. But it's seriously just sitting down and saying, okay, this is how much, like, write it down on a piece of paper. This is how much money I want to allot to spend here. This is how much my rent costs. This is how much my electric bill costs. All that stuff, and see, okay, I'm making this much money a month, so I should have X amount of money left over after all my bills are paid. Where's that money going to? And then you kind of start to, you know, track your expenses and find you a good app. Like, we use an app, doesn't cost any money. What's it called again?
Money Manager.
Money Manager, and you just download it for free, and you just keep track of your expenses. And then once you go back and you look, you can see, okay, so last month we spent like $400 on eating out. Like, okay, maybe we need to cut back a little bit. So it's really just starting down, writing your stuff down, and finding a good app, or even if you want to keep that on paper, track your expenses and see, because that's all it is. Budgeting is literally just tracking your expenses. That's it.
So what was the hardest part of you guys' journey to, you know, financial freedom?
I mean, I think I would say the hardest part was starting.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really realize how much, I guess, in bondage we were until we kind of had the blinders taken off and been like, oh, like, wow, okay, let's get on the same page. And once we started, then it got a lot easier. Like, even now, people will say, like, oh my gosh, y'all are working like 6 jobs, 20. People are like, y'all working 100 jobs between the two of y'all. Like, that wasn't the hardest part. It was like motivating to do that. And it was kind of fun because it was like, oh man, we're so close. Like, let's keep pushing to see how quickly it's really done.
Yeah.
So it was definitely starting, I think, for me.
Yeah, I would say the same as well. Once we really started making progress, your motivations changed, and you kind of like you want to work all the time. You want to keep earning because you're seeing for the first time being in control. So I would just say, those first couple of months of mapping out the budget and just kind of working out the kinks would have probably been the most difficult part.
Wow, definitely. And I know I've just recently watched one of your videos. I think it was one day ago. I'm telling you, I'm keeping up. You guys just said you started investing. How is that going? And how do you like, what would be the advice you would kind of give some? I know you guys just started, but what did you kind of figure out in the process?
We had already been investing in our 401k, which is done through my company, and we receive a 5% match from the company. So we always wanted to take advantage of that. And now what we're starting with, our investments are pretty boring. Basically, we look at it as a long-term thing, a set it and forget it kind of thing. But if you're going to have that type of strategy, then you got to make sure you're placing your money in places that it makes sense to have that strategy. So we're starting with the Roth IRA, which is basically like the government's way to incentivize people to save money. They're saying, hey, if you put money in this account and save it, this is after-tax money, and we're not going to tax you on any of the gains. If you put $500 in this today, and 30 years from now, that money grows to whatever, you're going to take all of that money home tax-free. And so it's kind of a no-brainer as a starting point for us.
Right.
And so we're going to try to fund ours, fully fund both of ours by the end of the year. Each person can put in up to $6,000 into their Roth IRA. The account is basically just a savings account that has a tax freedom benefit to it with everything you deposit and everything that you gain on the money. But once it's in that account, you then have to invest it somewhere within the market. And we're starting with index funds, which are basically is basically a low-cost way to get your hand across a variety of different companies all at once.
Yep. And he started into Fidelity, and I'm going through Vanguard just so we can kind of see the differences and see how each does.
Yeah,
smart.
Interesting to compare and contrast the two, because those are two of the most popular brokerage accounts that we have, and so it'll be interesting for us to kind of see the benefits of each one.
I gotta be honest, you guys. Like, I feel so motivated just talking to y'all, because it's like it's a lot of things that I've been doing research on, and obviously, like I said, I'm a Dave fan, so I've been listening to him like on my way to work pretty much every day. But it's kind of like I've always like, okay, I might start next month. Oh, okay, maybe the month after. Right, so it's cool to see like, okay, this is everything you've been learning about. These are people that are actually doing it. Yeah. So I'm pretty pumped right now. So
definitely, I'm so excited. I'm really excited. Oh, you wanted to say something?
I was just gonna say, don't be discouraged by that, because it happens to everybody. Literally, the Fidelity account that I just funded, I opened that account 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
And because I would hear people say, you should be investing. You should be investing. You should be investing.
Right.
I wanted to do it because I heard people talk about it all the time. But I didn't really know what I was doing. So I opened the account. I put $50 in there, and then I kind of got like what you were saying, like I'm gonna do a little more next month. I'm gonna get into this next month, and then that month after month turned into 5 years. And so then now 5 years later, we're back here out of debt and really focus on learning about investing and really actually taking action. We started to open an account, and I was just like,
wait a minute,
didn't I do this before? I went back and I found the old account and opened it up, and my same little $50 was still just sitting there because I hadn't done anything with it. And so I would say that as an encouragement. It happens to everybody. And so I always try to tell people, information is great. It's great to gather and learn as much as you can. But if you don't act off of the info that you're learning, like experience is the best teacher. So just kind of start small and just kind of start figuring it out. And you'll be surprised how much you'll start to kind of get it, and things will start to fall into place. And month over month, you'll be in a totally different space, you know, a year from now or 2 years from now, in terms of like what you understand about it.
Right.
Right.
Wow, that is so cool. Do you guys teach that stuff? Like, I mean, you guys are pretty knowledgeable, and I'm telling you, like, I know, like, other young people out there, like, they are suffering from just slumping in debt. And I mean, just everyone that I've spoken to on that matter, it's a matter of, you know, just looking of how much debt that you're in, that you just, it's something about it that makes you just give up. Like, I'm never gonna be able to pay
that
this
off,
off, so like, I'm just gonna like forget about it, and you know.
Well,
And
they do
leave
have
it.
they do have a YouTube channel. They kind of give a lot of great information. That's where I found them. So you guys want to, you know, give the people where all your social media platforms and where they can find you before we play our little game, before we end. This conversation was great.
Sure, yeah. We're on YouTube as Living Tiny with the Bushes. That's Bushes. Bush is our last name, so that's kind of where it comes from. And then
And our Instagram is Tiny House Lifestyle. So tiny_house_lifestyle.
Awesome. We'll definitely put that in the description. Thank you guys so much. But before I let you guys leave, we gotta play a little personal game. I wanted to make this fun and not so, oh my gosh, financial, I need to start paying off my debt. But
That's important too.
It's very important, but we want to kind of leave the flow with just, you know, a little bit more relaxed, because now I'm just like, okay, I really need to start tackling those. I don't have much debt, but I'm just like, I need to just get rid of it altogether. Thanks to you guys. So the personal question is, we're going to see what you guys, we're going to just learn and want our audience to kind of know a little bit more about you. And I know you guys are from different backgrounds. I know Kodnesa, right?
Got it.
I got it. Kodnesa is Haitian, and you are, Marek?
I'm African American.
African American, okay, just African American, okay. and what kind of culture? I mean, what culture's habit did you guys pick up from each other? Like, I know the cultures can be so different, so especially Haitians can.
I'm a lot more willing to let other forks into my plate these days.
Well, that's just a woman thing.
I'm still a working in progress on there,
That's
but
not a culture thing.
I think that's a woman thing, honestly.
Well, we talked about it on the video, and she was saying how, like, in Haitian culture, like, the food is for everybody.
Right, but that's not
Yeah.
your plate is what I'm saying. Like, food that's being cooked is for everybody. It's for the village. Like,
So
we share it.
what would you say then?
Exactly. Yes. So what did you pick up from him?
I think something that I don't know.
I picked up a little bit of Creole, but very, very minimal.
Can you? Okay, go ahead and tell us.
I got you on that, brother.
Tell me what exactly you picked up, because I want to hear you say it.
So, like, one of the insults is like the.
What are you about to say?
Oh,
No, go ahead, brother.
It's okay. We'll bleep it out if it's. We'll bleep it out if it.
Like macaque salé, like the whole. I never understood that, but she has a T-shirt.
Oh
on it.
man.
And then obviously like the stuff everybody knows, like sac passe,
You know what?
Right.
but also like manger and.
What's your favorite dish though? Especially since you said manger. What's your favorite dish in the Haitian? Favorite dish?
Fun and pickles.
Oh, that's my dude. Yes, sir.
I feel like that's a cheap answer because everybody loves that, but that's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And she makes some really good legume.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. So what part of Haiti are you from?
Well, I was born in Port-au-Prince. So my mom's side is from Port-au-Prince. That's where I was born. That's where we lived. But my dad is from Benin.
Okay.
Oh.
South.
Yeah, awesome. Oh my goodness. Okay, so another question I have. I want you guys, well, I think you guys share social medias, do you? You guys share social media? Oh, okay, so I can't ask that question because I was going to ask when was the last time you post, so you guys will both know the answer to that. So I want to ask, do you own any designer shoes?
Nope.
Nothing crazy.
No, we living on a budget. I'm not buying anything. And I think even when we do like grow our wealth a little bit more than it is now, I don't think I'll ever like get into that stuff. It's just not appealing to me.
Hold on one second.
Okay,
I gotta get that on record. Hold on. Can I
Make sure you save it.
Oh, I'll just take a copy of this podcast because I'm gonna.
Yes, sir.
Oh, definitely. Thank you guys so much. But before we end, we always like to do a challenge of the week. So the point of it is that we don't want our podcast to just be one of those podcasts you just listen to and you just go about your day. We want it to be very informative and also make sure that people are actually taking actions towards what they are trying to, improve in. So we always make sure that we encourage them to do exactly what we just spoke about and put it into action. Okay. So we will let you guys since you guys are our guests today, we'll let you guys come up with a challenge of the week and we'll post it so that we can kind of get our viewers to start getting financially free. Yeah, debt free.
I think I got a good one that kind of goes along with what we were talking about. Mm-hmm. And I would say one actionable item people could do is find their total. If they're in debt, sit down, figure out where all the accounts are. Who do you owe money to? How much money do you owe them? What's the interest rate on it? And get that total. What's your total amount of debt? What's your starting point? And it's going to feel really big and it's going to feel really unmanageable and tough, like you'll never be able to do it. But I guarantee you the very first step is to figure that out. And the only way you're going to be able to start chipping away at that is knowing what the problem is. You got to acknowledge it. You got to know that it's there. And you got to say, look, I see it and I'm going to tackle it. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to knock this thing out.
And once you have done that, I'm going to challenge you to start whatever that means for you, whether it's start a budget or whether it's start knocking down the smallest one. Start somewhere. Just start.
Definitely. Good points. Thank you so much, guys. It was such a pleasure talking to you guys, and you guys are so chill. And we'll definitely want to come. We definitely want to have you guys back. Definitely.
I was just about to say, I'm like, yo, we should do this again, and we just like close proximity, so definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know how long Corona is gonna last, but we definitely want to meet you guys in person because we have some good. We have some good events that we're looking forward to, but you guys, we're gonna let you go and we'll let our guests know that we are thankful that you're still listening to us, and this is for you, whoever is listening. We want you to take action towards getting debt free, because I know it's hard, but if you just start, like what Nasa said, that's just the start. That's just the beginning of where you can kind of financially be 10 years from now, maybe. So guys, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for listening. This was the Point of View podcast. Until next time, this is Obelle and
GV. All right, y'all, be good, and I will talk to you guys soon.